And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
Los Angeles! I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Copeland's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the Bald Truth UK. Phone number 0203-372-4683. It is so great to be here on this Sunday afternoon here in the US. And of course, it's 8 p.m. GMT time in the UK and in other parts of Europe. Welcome to the broadcast. If you're new to the show, don't know who I am or who we are, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I'm the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, and I've been doing a version of this broadcast in the U.S. for over 14 years. We have been on just about every major city's flagship station in the United States, and of course XM satellite radio, and now we are international online, and it's so great to do this UK only Sunday broadcast. And the reason we're doing this is because we have gotten over the years so much response to the US show. So many guys, once we started to go online, who wanted to be a part of this broadcast, who couldn't, call in at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, whenever we aired on our Tuesday night broadcast. And we decided to kind of give this a shot. And so far, so good. We're really happy with the broadcast. If you are new and you don't know who my sidekick is, he is none other than Spencer Stevenson. He goes by the pseudonym Specs Online, and he has been a consumer advocate in the UK and on the internet in his own right for many, many years. I have to actually tell my producer to do a split screen right now. Suncast, do me a favor, do a split. So he is a guy that I have had a tremendous amount of respect for over the years, a guy that has really taken it upon himself to help so many hair loss sufferers really, for free. And he has always given a lot of himself online. He's also affiliated with Fellow Medical in the U.S. and just all around good guy. Let's welcome Spencer Stevenson to the show. Specs, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good, Spence. Thank you. Thanks for the are you keeping well?
I didn't mean to throw you off by that really, stroking intro.
Yeah, you don't usually stroke me. all good, buddy. Yeah, but mate, I've had a busy week. I've been all over the place, and
tell us about your week. Well, before you start, I want to thank the GFQ Network for producing the broadcast for us right now. I have not been able to produce this myself from my equipment here in Los Angeles, so we are both feeding our feeds into our New York studio, and our man Sunkist in Detroit is actually running the studio remotely, which is insane to me. It's like black magic. But I want to thank you guys for doing what you're doing so that we can get the show live on the air. So, yeah, go on, Specs. So what's going on this week?
I've had a busy week. But, yeah, big kudos to GFQ there. I don't know how you guys are doing. Good. Really busy. I was really fortunate. Yesterday, I was in London doing consultations with Beauty Medical, but then after that, I hooked up with Dr. Rahal for a beer, which was fantastic. First time.
How did that happen? How did that happen?
Well, Dr. Rahal was over here doing consultations in the UK, and he pinged me an email saying, we've always tried to hook up when he's been over here. We just never had the opportunity. Our schedules have never synced up. But Matt gave me a call, his UK representative, and confirmed Dr. Rahal's over. I had an email off Dr. Rahal. Long story short, we coordinated, and it was brilliant. Hooked up for him for a couple of hours. We chewed the fat, and great guy. Absolutely a real mensch.
I will tell you, the guy is a mensch. He is, forget about him being a great hair transplant surgeon. He's just a really nice, mellow, kind guy. Doesn't have a bad word to say about anybody, which is rare in this industry. I'll tell you that. And he's just a all around, good guy, like you said.
Really, really laid back, chilled out guy, given his incredible profile. And it was absolutely a pleasure to spend time in his company. And, he's a busy guy. He was over here doing consultations. And just like to say as well, congratulations to Matt J, who is Dr. Rahal's UK consultant over here, for having his hair transplant and finally joining the club. So big kudos to him. He's a couple of weeks in from 2,500 FUE with Dr. Rahal, and I spoke to him, and he's hopefully going to come on the show as well, and we'll do a pre-recorded with him hopefully over the next couple of weeks, and he can get a chance to tell his story. But being the fact that it's a Dr. Rahal patient, it's going to be a fantastic transformation to watch online.
That's actually what's interesting about that is, I don't mean to cut you off, is that usually when a guy starts to work for a clinic, he's already been through the process. And I find it interesting that, Matt obviously was always very interested. He was dealing with hair loss, and he decided to kind of hold off, which is great. I think, listen, hair transplantation is always going to be there. So I think it definitely speaks volumes that, this is a guy that was holding off. He was working for the clinic, obviously, but he was so convinced after being there for such a pretty long period of time, he didn't decide, well, you know what, hair transplants aren't for me because I see the inside situation. He actually decided to go for it because he knew that he could benefit from it. There are guys out there that believe that I have chosen not to have a hair transplant because I know too much about the industry, because I think that because I'm in the field and I understand the field intimately, that I would never have a hair transplant. That is not the case. I don't have a hair transplant because for me, I don't think it would be in my best interest. It's not something that I want in my life. I would rather paint my head right now and deal with what I have to deal with. I feel very fortunate that I have the hair that I have. So I think that's a really good example of someone who didn't have it for a long time, who's been in the industry and then went for it.
Yeah, he's been in the industry for a number of years. And Matt was on a couple of forums years and years ago, and I think he approached Dr. Rahal for a hair transplant, and Dr. Rahal, being the ethical doctor that he is, and he's so well known for being, actually I think kind of talked Matt down and said, look, let's just wait a little bit. Meanwhile, I've seen you online. You're a great patient advocate. He's a very articulate guy. He's very intelligent, and Dr. Rahal and him started working together regardless of the fact that he was an actual patient. However, he's done a great job educating people, but now finally it's just cemented his credibility within the industry. He's put his kind of money where his mouth is, and he's actually had a hair transplant. And I've yet to see the pictures, but I can only guess that it's a fantastic top drawer result, or it's going to be in light of the chosen surgeon.
Well, what did you guys talk about? I mean, what was,
we talked about pretty much everything. We talked about pretty much everything in a 2-hour period. And you know what? When you meet somebody and the conversation just flows, and it's like, before you know it, you've had 2 hours, and it's like, whoa, it's just a fantastic guy. I mean, we ended up talking about a lot about girls and partying and, things, life in general, life in general.
Single. He's not married, right? He's still single.
He's a single guy. I think he, fair play to him. God, and it's.
Well, he's not that old. He's pretty. I think he's probably maybe my age or younger.
I think he's similar age, but I mean, the thing is with Dr. Rahal that struck me. He's got so many different interests outside of hair restoration. and for such a driven individual as Dr. Rahal is, and somebody that dedicates so much time and energy and effort to his patients and the industry at large, it was refreshing to sit down with him. And actually, we didn't actually talk that much about hair restoration and the business of the industry. It was just more general chit chat and just getting to know each other. And it was refreshing. You know, after a long day, he'd been doing consultation, I'd been doing consultations. It was like, you know, let's just have a beer, buddy, and let's just kick back. And it was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to meeting him again. And no, brilliant. I mean, and also, I mean, that was this week. I mean, on what day are we? It was Sunday, Saturday. That was yesterday. On Tuesday, I was in Brussels on business, and I called in and saw Dr. Faradouni and had a chat with him and met him as well. So it's been a really busy week this week, and you know, obviously been dealing with all the various interests. I believe we've got a lot of callers that are going to be calling the show, and really looking forward to it. So I mean, as I'm sure you have.
Yeah, let's just let's go right to the phones, man. Let's start this thing.
Yeah,
up.
I was going to say, I bet the phones are ringing already.
Yeah, let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the Bald Truth UK. Who's this?
This is Michael from Denmark.
Michael from where?
From Denmark.
Hey, Michael. How are you? What can I do for you?
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions.
You got it, man. That's what we're here for.
About these Turkish doctors. Have you heard about, like, Dr. Kaiser?
Yeah, actually, I have, and there's a few doctors out there that are really promoting FUE in Turkey. Some are good, some not so great. I haven't actually had the opportunity to see Dr. Kaiser's patients in person, or speak to his patients, or speak to the doctor himself. But you know, I haven't heard bad things about what he's doing in Turkey. So I can tell you that we are not receiving any complaints to the American Hair Loss Association or to the Bald Truth or to the IHRS. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. You know, we are really the clearinghouse for complaints internationally. So the fact that we're not hearing any complaint, well, you know, I have heard some, and these aren't complaints, but I've heard some criticism, but I haven't heard any complaints from actual patients. So I think that's a really good sign. Is there what else do you want to know about?
The reason why I'm interested it's because they have low prices.
Well, you know what?
€1 per glass.
Yeah, and listen, I understand that's why a lot of guys are interested. I personally, you know, when it comes to cosmetic surgery, man, I got to tell you that, you know, while I think it's good to shop around to some degree for price, I really think that price is secondary. You got to go for someone with a proven track record, and then you try to price them down. I will tell you about price. A lot of guys that don't understand the industry, you know, if you find the right doctor and you guys make a connection, no matter who the doctor is, no matter what their prices are, and you kind of tell them what your situation is, a lot of the really good guys will work with you, and in some cases bring that price down considerably. Now, I'm not a fan of guys that offer discounts right away or that have coupons or any shit like that. You want to stay away from that. But if you are, you know, man to man, you speak to somebody and say, listen, this is something that I really want. This is, and he believes you're a good candidate, and he thinks that, you know, he can help you out in some way. There are plenty of doctors here in the U.S. and other parts of Europe that will give you discounts, you know, and that's, of course, a case-by-case basis. But I always say, man, money is the last thing you think about when you are having cosmetic surgery. What do you think, Specs?
I think indeed. And how you doing, buddy? Thanks for calling the show. Is it somebody that you're thinking of actually having surgery done with? Because I'll be honest, I've not heard a great deal about the particular doctor. But when it comes to assessing, you know, or choosing a surgeon based on price, I agree with Spence. Price should actually be, as funny as it sounds, one of the last things on the checklist with regards to choosing your surgeon. You know, you should home in on the surgeon based on his, you know, potentially his results, his results in person, the doctor himself, the feel for him, you know, his practice. Go to his practice, get a feel for it, the number of technicians that he employs, online presence, kind of patient testimonies, and get a general feel for a particular surgeon that you feel, this guy is clearly what he says on the tin. He's clearly got a proven track record. And then after that, once you've homed in on several of those, of which there are, there are countless, and you can look on online, and on the Bold Truth Talk, there's a lot of surgeons that also are very transparent, that actually get involved and interact with patients online. That's another thing, which for me is of great appeal, and I know it's of comfort to a lot of patients that are researching surgeons. Then look at price.
You know what I'm hearing. And what's your name? You said your name is John from Denmark, or Michael? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's Tiger Norwood.
Oh man, Tiger Norwood. How are you, man?
Tiger Norwood. Sorry, buddy. I didn't realize it was you.
He didn't give his username. Listen, I know why you're asking about Kessler, and there's a lot of talk. A lot of the younger guys who are online. And who are really active online will write about doctors who have cheaper prices, or they write about doctors who they think are getting good reviews from other sites and stuff like that. I'm not saying that he's not. I'm not saying that he's not a good doctor and that they're not offering something good for a good price. What I am saying is that it's unusual for a physician not to come to us to kind of present his work, and it's just the way that it is. I don't go out there and solicit doctors to be a part of the IHRS. They come to us, and it's pretty unusual for that not to happen. However, if I were you and you're really considering him, I would see if you can meet with some patients in person who've had the work done, if that's a possibility. If there's anyone close to you who has had the work done by Kessler, why not see if you can meet them? Or, if you're willing to travel a little bit to see some patients, it would be worth the money to do that before you actually sign on the dotted line, because if you do sign on the dotted line with Kessler, you'll be saving a lot of money. So, incorporating some of those travel costs just to do your due diligence may not be a bad idea. But if I were you, man, I would not sign on that dotted line until you've seen a couple of patients, because at this point, the track record is not there. But again, he could be the best thing since sliced bread. I just don't know.
Tiger Norwood, remind me, where are you at? Have you met patients from Dr. Kessler?
Hold on for
already?
1 second. There's a little overlap because of Skype. Tiger, why don't you say what you wanted to say?
Sorry, man.
I'm just saying that I find it interesting that the prices are maybe coming down in general, and you're starting to see that in Turkey. So maybe it will be like a competition in the field, and these prices will start to drop a little bit in Europe. Because if I could choose, I would go to Dr. Bishanka.
Yes.
Because I think he's a very good doctor.
Well, yeah, I do think there is going to be. I do see some of the prices. There's some more competition out there, but I will tell you this: it seems like the fringe guys are the guys that are really offering the extremely low prices at this point, and they're trying to get their foot in the door and really get out there. But I will tell you this: as soon as these guys' practices really start to grow, you're also going to see their prices jump a little bit as well. That's just the nature of the business. I've seen that forever in this industry. Doesn't matter where they are in the world. Even in Turkey, if they see that they're getting more traffic and they're getting more international notoriety and they're able to get their information out there and their work out there in a bigger way, they start to raise their prices as well. It happens every time, and I've seen it happen, with countless surgeons. I do think that in general, though, there's a lot of doctors out there that are more willing to work, especially with the younger guys, the guys that may not be making the money that they want to make at this point. If they really believe they're good candidates, I think some of these guys are willing to work with you. And there are guys out there that I've known personally who have had financial issues that not only have been able to finance their surgeries, but the doctors, again, have given them some breaks. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that. I don't know which doctors are going to do that for you, but that's really a case-by-case basis. But, yeah, I mean, why don't you give, Basanga a call, have a consult with him and talk to him? I mean, how much is Basanga charging right now?
I think he charges five euros a graft. Is it something like that?
Yeah, 6, 7 maybe. It's very expensive.
Is it? No worries. So, Tiger, Tiger, could just remind me, sorry, because it keeps breaking up the feed, but is Dr. Kessler charging €1 per graft then?
Is he charging €1 per graft, or is he saying €1 per hair?
Yeah, €1 per graft of FUE.
What makes my initial reaction to that is, how is he covering his overheads? How is he paying his staff, and how is he, paying the rent on the building and his electricity and
exactly?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So,
it's obviously there's a conversion, a currency conversion, and it's less expensive to have to rent a place and to pay salaries in Turkey. However, how many grafts does he have to do? And is he actually giving you the grafts that he's claiming that he's getting? I'm not saying that he's not. I mean, it just seems, that's it doesn't matter where you are in the world. That's an extremely low price. So, I would, if you're really into it, dude, you got to see his patients. Take a trip over there, see as many patients as you can. See if you can Skype with a couple of patients.
And you're based in Denmark, aren't you? You're based in Denmark, Tiger.
But hold on, guys. There's a big Skype overlay. So, Tiger, go ahead, say what you want to say, and then Specs can chime in.
I said what actually made me interested in these Turkish doctors is I saw some pictures on the forum, Talk forum, and it looks very good. I must say.
And I think that's important. I'm glad that the guys are posting their images on there, and who knows, maybe this is a guy that will eventually be someone that's recommended by us. But even if he's not recommended by us, like I told you, he could be great. He really can. I just don't have the inside information on the guy. I hope that he picks up the phone or Skypes me or sends me some information so that I can say next time someone like you calls in, whether he's in the IHRS or not, that this guy's a good doctor. I just always raise an eyebrow, especially when there's such a huge price differential. It doesn't matter where in the world that this guy is. He's trying to get himself out internationally. He sees that this is an advantage, especially with the younger patients, to have such a low price range. So I would just be very careful and really do your research. You may find when you see his patients that he's better than everybody else, and you got a great deal, or you may find that it's not cracked up to what people are claiming. So, and the bottom line is, you really got to see these guys in person.
But it's not like I'm jumping into surgery or anything. I've been considering also SMP and have been talking with Specs about it earlier on. So I'm not doing anything right now, but I'm just considering my options.
I'm glad, and I think that's smart. And obviously you're a good poster on the forum, and you seem like a really sharp kid. And I appreciate that you're taking your time. Just keep taking your time. Eventually, you may even get to the point where you don't want to do anything. SMP is also something that, for a long time, I was not a huge fan. I am seeing some really good results, though, especially I'm seeing the temporary SMP that I think for the right person, it can kind of get them over a hump in life. Would I do it? You know me. I'm very conservative. I would not do it, but Specs has done it, and he's very happy with it. So, these are all things that I think are really good options for the right person. Listen, Tiger, we're going to take some more calls. I appreciate you taking the time to call in, and we'll talk soon, all right, man?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Take care. Phone number is 0203. I always do that. Let's start over. 0203 3724 683. Give us a call here at the Bald Truth UK. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the Bald Truth UK. Who's this?
Hi, guys. How's it going? It's Christoph.
Hey, what's happening, Christoph? What's going on?
Chris.
Not bad. How are you both doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know how Specs is doing. He looks good.
I'm good, thanks, Chris. You're diehard, buddy. You love it, don't you? You're loving the show.
I do. Yeah, it's great.
Good lad. Yeah. Good lad. Oh, how are you? What's happening with you? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say I had a bit of an eventful evening last night.
What happened?
Well, basically, I went up a whiskey bar last night with my dad and my brother.
Keep it PG, Chris. Don't go anything over PG.
Over PG.
No, I
Yeah, I know some of your stories that you used to tell me. Keep it.
You can keep it. You can keep it R-rated, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I went at this whiskey bar last night with Dad and my brother, and I was having a few shots of that. It gives you a nice feeling and that. I'm not really too keen on the taste. I mean, how do you guys feel about it? I mean, to me personally, it feels like something I've plucked out of a laboratory.
I'll tell you, I mean, it's definitely an acquired taste. I started drinking it at a young age, so yeah, I would say that Specs can testify to the fact that we've had a couple of bouts.
I'm teetotal ever since I left Spencer Coburn's house. No, I'm not a big shot drinker.
All I know is can't get into details, but I did not expect him and Joe Tronick to sleep in my house that night. Yeah, we did not expect that. The wife did not expect that. So no, we definitely, I love Irish whiskey. I love Jameson's. I like Jameson's 12-year-old, which is really good. I also like Tennessee whiskey, which is Jack Daniel's. That's a lot of the Europeans and Specs when he came over. I mean, that's what they go for right away. They want to drink the American stuff. But I also like Canadian whiskey. I like Crown Royal, which is really good.
Do you like Johnny Walker Blue? Aren't you a big Johnny Walker Blue, isn't it? I don't know. We don't get that over here. Well, maybe we do.
I like Johnny Walker Blue, but to me, it's extremely, I give it as gifts. It's extremely pricey, and I really tell you that for me, I would rather have a Jameson's compared to Johnny Walker Blue.
Yeah. All good. What's happening on the forums, Chris? What's going down? I know you love them, don't you? You're always on them.
Wait a second. I wanted to tell his whiskey story. What happened? Anything good?
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, so I was in this bar and we were just sat there having a good time between us, and there's a nice blonde girl in there, my brother, like one of your LA 10s as you refer to, Spencer.
All right.
But yeah, anyways, I didn't really expect that because there's a lot of old guys in there, very well educated and successful people in there.
And that's why the LA 10.
That's why you were hanging out in there, wasn't it, Chris?
Well, I think with a couple of friends, I think she was just trying to avoid the guys, really, just have a chat between herself and her friends. But yeah, so after that, I met up with a girl I've been seeing at the moment, and went back to her place, had a few drinks, and had like one of those deep, long chats, wink, wink, that you have.
All right.
And then come back this morning, went to bed, watched Bold Truth American with
I got to ask you. I mean, I'm a little offended. How come you didn't pop open your laptop and watch it with her in bed in the morning?
No, I'll tell you what. Actually, she's actually listening to the show tonight. I told her last night I had a transplant, and I showed her my testimonial on that. What I've posted on the thread. So.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. So you opened up right away.
How did that go down?
No, first of all, I think that takes balls, and I really appreciate the fact that you have the courage and you're man enough to do that. A lot of these guys, I talk about, being the Harry Houdini, the comb over and painting my head. For me, coming out and talking about having hair loss right away, when I was younger, even before I met Common Law, it was just liberating. It was like, okay, either you like me for who I am or you don't, or you think it's weird or, whatever. I never got rejection because of that. Never. And I think it's amazing that you have the courage. A lot of guys, you see it on the forum. They're like, how can I hide this from my wife, or how can I hide this from my girlfriend? I mean, are you fucking crazy? You can't tell your girlfriend or your wife, someone you've been with for a while. I could see, initially it might be a little bit for some guys they might be shy because it's cosmetic surgery. But man, you got courage. I appreciate that. So how'd she react?
Yeah, she was impressed with me. She couldn't believe it looking at it. She was amazed really. I mean, she said it was very good work, but I said to her, I've had some cosmetic surgery. I said, where do you think it is? And she was going through all the facial features on my face, and I said, no, it's not that one, it's not that one. And she couldn't really work out what it was. I said, well, look up the top, and then, it was hair, obviously, and
that is awesome.
She couldn't believe it.
And you know what's impressive about that is they're just like, I don't mean to cut you off, Specs. They just think like it's like black magic. They can't believe that hair transplants really work.
Mm.
Go ahead.
When you asked her, like, guess where the cosmetic surgery is, I bet she was hoping it was down your pants. I'm hoping this guy has had a penile enlargement. Oh, fair play, buddy. You got some balls doing that, I must admit. I'm one of those guys that kept it really stum, you know, on the lowdown from pretty much everybody. Funny you should say that, Spence, because I came across a guy recently who's going for a hair transplant, and his intention is to attempt to do it without telling his wife. Talk about That's draining. Great. I don't know how he's going to do that, but yeah.
Does he not want to tell his wife because he doesn't want his wife to know he's spending the money, or is it just because he's
a bit of everything? He's not actually. He only had minimal loss. Only got minimal loss. He wants a small FUE procedure, so therefore he's in the kind of ballpark of being able to get it done, you know, with a little bit of downtime. However, he's not basically disclosed it to his wife. I mean, you know, with all due respect to him, if he's watching the show, I don't know the relationship he's got with his wife. However, the point being, I can relate, and as people can, and people are doing that, you know, very, very rarely will they be open and honest, even with their closest, you know, even their family, and somebody as close to you as your wife, you know, who you interact with daily. And for somebody like Chris, who's picking up girls in the bar, hey, yeah, I've had a hair transplant. Meanwhile, I need a penis enlargement.
Listen, I really admire that. Well, you know, I think part of it has to do with the fact that we're shamed as men. We can't be concerned about our appearance. You know, it's even more acceptable, I think, for a guy to get like a rhinoplasty or a nose job. I think, you know, because you see more about that in the mainstream media. So if someone said, "Yeah, I got a nose job," I think any woman would be just like, "Yeah, well, you know, whatever. I got my tits done." You know, I mean, it seems more palatable than for someone to admit that they were concerned about their hair loss and that they were so concerned that they had cosmetic surgery about it. But I think once you meet a cool chick, she realizes that, and listen, if she started to lose her hair, she'd want to do something about it too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And I think also where Chris is at, Chris, fill me in, mate. But I bet because you're confident about your hair transplant and you feel that your confidence has been increased and your self-esteem is better, you're positive about it. It's guys that have had poorer work done that aren't too happy to disclose that fact. You know, I'm sure you can understand that one, Spence. Hey,
absolutely, man. Listen, you can give a shout out to your new girlfriend on the Crazy Weird Bald show that she's watching. I think it's very funny that she's watching the Bald show
with the guy with 4 heads of hair. She's like, "What's going down already?"
Yeah. So go on.
I think I'll leave it at that, to be honest. I don't think I'll elaborate anymore. All I'll say is, you know, what happened last night was nice, and say that was a starter, and the main course is yet to come. So
I'm glad. Man, that's great. Cheesy. Congratulations to the new chick because she met a nice guy. So what else? What else is going on?
Yeah, I'm bringing up a topic that I think you're both quite aware of, and I don't really think it'll go away, but it's to do with balding men feeling physically inferior and in some cases paralysed to non-balding men in attracting females.
Right.
And a lot of the guys are searching for well-known celebrities and good-looking guys who they feel they can relate to as role models or symbols and give them like hope in attracting their ideal woman or or a better proportion of females. And for me personally, when I read some of the stories, I seem to read it quite often now, and they feel very sad, and well, I feel sad for them, etc., because they feel so powerless and paralysed and distraught in some cases that they just don't feel as though they can attract, you know, whoever they want in life. And this was just a general point, really, but I was actually interested on a personal level how you both were with the opposite sex when you were young in your early 20s, before you had hair loss, and how you were attracting females, and then when you actually did have hair loss, how did you feel? How did you cope with it? And then afterwards, as you got older, how did you embrace it, and how did you deal with it?
Well, for me personally, I drank a lot and paid for sex, so there was no problem there. But no, honestly, go ahead, Spence.
I mean, I when I started losing my hair, mate, it completely affected me, and I went quite. For me, there was a funny transition in there because when I was single, when I was younger and I had a full head of hair, I was single, so it was never really an issue. And then what happened to me was I started losing my hair through the process in my kind of, you know, in my better years of kind of 21 through to 25, and dealt with that process was very hard. Didn't really have that much, not much female interaction. I wasn't myself. I didn't have a great deal of confidence. But then I met my wife. So it kind of then I had the transition of then going through the whole head transplant repairs, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not the best candidate to kind of give a control on it. But I think generally.
I tell you this, though. I didn't meet I didn't meet common law until I was 34 years old. So I had a lot of single time and dated a lot of broads when I was young. And I will tell you that while my confidence was certainly, I was not who I was when I was 20, 21 years old. When I was 20, 21 years old, and this is not to sound obnoxious, it just came relatively easy. I didn't think about it. I didn't really think about my looks because I didn't feel like I was losing them. And I was never like, some, movie star or model type of guy, but I was always good looking enough and had the personality and the social status that I created from a young age. Because I was, I played sports when I was a kid. I played baseball, and I just had, a lot of friends. I always had that where, I would normally for the most part, get, the best looking chick in the room or close to it. They may end up, looking at the better looking guy initially, but I would end up chatting him up, and I had luck with that. When I started to lose my hair, it was more difficult for me. But I decided that I didn't want that. I didn't want to lose that. Just because I was losing my hair. I may not be looking as good, and I was getting comments about my hair and stuff like that, but I kind of overcame it. And I think, and like I talk about this all the time, I'm very honest about it, I started to self-medicate. I started to drink more. That's when I really started to go to the bars. So drinking actually helped to lubricate me socially. So I just continued on with that, and I was still meeting women. And I had some nice long-term relationships and some really great, very short-term relationships as well. So I kind of, maybe I was hyper-focused on meeting women at that point because I always wanted to prove myself. But then, after a while, kind of when I found finasteride and I kind of everything settled down, I started to move into this career. I was lucky enough to meet someone, basically the love of my life. And, I've been with her for 14 years. But I see what you're talking about, these guys who think that they can't get laid or they're never going to meet a woman. Believe me, I was certainly not a 10 out of 10, and at times I was probably a 5 out of 10. I was getting heavy and bloated, but it never stopped me from meeting women. And this is even before I started to make, really good money. A lot of the guys in the chat rooms or in the forum, and you'll attest to this, they think, well, the only way a guy can get a good-looking woman who is not an 8 or a 10 is if he is very successful in life. I was a kid. I wasn't really that successful yet. So I just kind of dealt with it by jumping in feet first. But I think a lot of guys can't do that. I mean, what do you do? I mean, what was your situation like before you got your transplant?
Well, to be honest, Spencer, I mean, I've never had extensive hair loss. I've got very thick, dense hair, and my hair in the corners was receding, but I had a very strong forelock. So for me, it was easy to disguise, and I'm not really in a position to comment in comparison to someone who's got more advanced balding, because I think if I had that, my perspective might be a bit different. It's harder for me to say for a guy who's got a Nord 6, Nord 7 in comparison to myself.
Well, same with me. I mean, I was lucky enough to find finasteride early on in life, and even though I do wear makeup in the back and stuff like that, those are the things that could really affect someone's confidence, especially when there's intimacy involved. I just never allowed it to. I didn't want this to cripple me to the point where I couldn't have a good life. Go ahead, man. Finish your thought.
What I was going to say is, if I was to get in that position, I mean, I've been on finasteride, as you know, for 6-7 years now, but at a later time, if my hair loss was to increase significantly and become aggressive, then I just have to sort of raise my level on the other qualities I have. I.e., I'm in very good shape anyway, so that's not really a problem. But sport a shaved look. I do look good with a shaved head. I think I seem to attract a higher proportion of females with longer hair. But even still, I think I can pull off a shaved look and just concentrate on the other areas. On my confidence, on my charm, and making money, and just coming across really as a cool, confident guy, and looks and everything. So
You know what? And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, they are not everything. And any woman,
No, they're
you know,
not.
and women, you know, they just like guys, you're initially attracted to someone who's attractive. But I am telling you, man, I've broken down many a 10 in my life. I just weared them out until they, you know, until they went out with me. And you know, but that's the thing. I'm not going to waste my time. And I always said that, you know, I'd rather get rejected by a 10 than a 5. All these guys who think that they can't approach beautiful women because they are not fashion models or actors or, you know, whoever they think is good looking and that the women swoon over. Let me tell you something. 99% of the women in this world, they're not ending up with these actors or these models. They're ending up with the regular Joe who can, you know, make them laugh and they can have fun with and they could enjoy their lives with, have children with or whatever they want and feel, you know, comfortable with. And I'm telling you that for any young woman out there who is like, they're not interested in dating a balding guy or a bald guy, the guy that you hook up with and the guy that you marry in his 20s is most likely going to be balding by the time he's in his 40s. That's just the way of the world. It's a fucking ticking time bomb. So, you know, I think sometimes it's better for women to kind of know what they're getting into early on and kind of accept that. And plenty of women do. But these young guys do not believe that. They think because they walk into a club and they don't get attention like they used to, that they're still not going to be able to get the hot women. You know, they may not be able to pick them up in the bars or the clubs, but they'll find other ways to meet beautiful women. But they don't believe it. These guys are suicidal. I understand it, but, you know, I think this is a good topic. And I think that, you know, maybe like Specs kind of, like you said, you met your wife when you were young. You're still young. You're like 10 years younger than me or more. You're like 11 years younger than me.
Yeah,
married
I am,
now.
but I mean, a good thing my late father taught me at the age of 16, and one of the best bit of advice he ever gave me. He goes, get loads of practice in on 4s, 5s, and 6s, and then when the 8, 9s, and 10s come along, you'll be really good at doing whatever you need to do, and then you'll have a better chance of keeping the 8, 9s, and 10s. So what you possibly have to do is drop your size so that you can chat loads of girls up, you know, build your confidence up, you know, get good at, you know, chatting girls up and enabling girls to feel that you've got, you know, something to give them, and then progress gradually and slowly up the ranks that you can potentially aim your sights on an 8, 9, and 10. Worked for me. I ended up with an 11, so it's all good.
That's right. That's awesome, man.
It's only because she can hear me. All
guys,
go, Chris.
yeah.
Listen.
We're actually going to give out the phone number, and we need to take a break. Apparently, our guy in Detroit is having trouble with Suncast, with Specs' feed, so you guys are going to have to reconnect. So I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take some more calls. Christoph, if you want to... Now, how do you like to be referred to? Chris? What's the best way?
Christoph, yeah. Christoph. My actual nickname, Davo, but yeah, Christoph's my profile name.
All right, so I'll call you Christoph. If you want to hold on, you can. We got other callers. You know, we can continue on with this conversation. Maybe some of the other guys want to jump in. So I'm going to put you on hold. Let me give out the phone number. The phone number is 0203. Hold on for a second. 0203 3724-683. And for you guys in the UK, it's 0203 3724-683. Apparently, you guys don't say 0. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Spencer Coburn. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. We'll be right back after this brief break. Stay with us.
Coast to coast and worldwide.
You know, I just want to say, you know, you guys are doing a great thing. It's such an uncomfortable topic to talk about, especially for a guy, you know, young guys in their early 20s. And, I'm glad that, I could tune in and, listen to you guys.
Spencer Coburn's The Bald Truth.
You never gave us a chance to be.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for staying tuned in. Phone number 02. Oh, Jesus, I do that all the time. I know this is a UK show, so it's 0203 3724 683. That's 0203 3724 683. Give us a call here at The Bald Truth. If you have any questions, concerns, just need to vent about your hair loss, this is the place. Listen, I've been doing this program in the U.S. throughout the entire nation on terrestrial radio, XM satellite radio, and now internationally on the internet for 14 years. which is insane because, there's not a program director in the country who thought that this program would not only not last, but make any kind of money. Who's going to listen to a hair loss show? How much can you talk about week in and week out? Well, I'll tell you what. 2/3 of you by the age of 35 are dealing with hair loss. There's 200,000 of us waking up every day realizing that we're losing our hair for the first time. And where are you going to turn? You know where we turn? Unfortunately, we turn to the snake oil salesman, the bullshit that we see on the internet. There's some guy in a basement selling an ebook and people are buying it. Let me tell you something. If this guy had the cure for hair loss, he'd be on the cover of Time magazine. He'd be on the cover of whatever national magazine is big in the UK. I should know this stuff. It's not the way it works. And we're here to talk about the emotional aspects of hair loss, how hair loss affects our lives. That's why this show is so successful. Because it gives us an opportunity to vent. It gives us an opportunity to talk about a subject that society just doesn't allow us to talk about. And that's important. So, and now going into our 15 years, I'm just like, 15th year, I'm just like, fuck these program directors. I was talking to somebody else who has basically a big radio guy, went completely online recently. And he's just telling me how free he feels to be doing what he's doing, kind of like as an entrepreneurial venture as opposed to just being a broadcaster, without the restrictions that, conventional terrestrial and now satellite radio has put on most broadcasters. These are the guys that say, you know what, you can't do this. No one's going to listen to this. And I proved them wrong. There's other guys now proving them wrong. And now that we are out there online, our numbers and the volume of listeners and people that view the show is insane. Arbitron, the People Meter, none of these guys, none of these companies who keep these rating systems could ever have imagined that internet broadcasting would be able to bring these niche type of broadcastings to the masses in a way that radio could never do. So I just want to thank all of my loyal listeners over the years, and now my new listeners, the listeners of myself and Specs now, who's joined the Bald Truth team and the Bald Truth brand, for tuning in and for being a part of what we're doing. I'll give out the phone number again. It is 02. Oh, Jesus. You got to correct me, man, when I do. It's 0203 3724 683. Chris is still on hold, but Chris, I'm gonna keep you on hold, and I want to take a couple of more calls. And let's see if anyone kind of wants to jump into the conversation that you started, or if they have other questions. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the Bald Truth UK. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Who's this?
Hi, this is Ben from London.
Hey, Ben from London. Welcome to the show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, just wanted to say hi to the show. I think it's great what you guys are doing. I've just been listening in from the start.
Oh, great.
And just wanted to say, Spencer, have you changed your shirt?
Since when?
Since the start of the show.
Since the start of the show, no. But I did change my shirt since I was testing with Specs. So you were watching even before the show started?
Yeah, I just wanted to get in early and try and get some.
Son of a bitch, he called me. Yeah, I mean the shirt. The shirt wasn't not equating. The shirt wasn't looking good on camera, so I decided to change it.
He didn't look slim in it. He didn't look slim enough in it. I don't think.
Say it again.
You didn't look slim enough in it. You wanted to get a shirt that made you look thinner.
Yeah, I thought I was too fat. Jesus Christ! So now you guys are busting on me about that. So what's up, Ben?
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Yeah. Just wanted to say, the last guy mentioned finasteride, and I just wanted to say I've had some really good positive effects on it myself. And, I was a bit skeptical on getting on it, as you can imagine, because you read about side effects and things like that.
Sure.
But I decided to give it a shot. And how I noticed it working initially was probably a lot of guys, when they're going through the hair loss process, mine's really, really gradual. But, it kind of you kind of like just start noticing little hairs on the pillow. I mean,
Yeah.
did you have that, you guys?
I did. I noticed not just little. I noticed a lot of hairs on the pillow. When I started to lose my hair really. I went through a telogen effluvium right away. So that's how I noticed it. It was just shedding like crazy.
Yeah, and for me, that's how I first kind of noticed it. Was just I kept having these little hairs. I didn't really think anything of it because nothing was visually changing for me until kind of it was happening a little bit too often for comfort, and I think people just started noticing a little bit, and then you just kind of get that sudden realization that, oh my God, something's not right here. And
how old were you when? How old were you when you first started to notice it? How old are you now, by the way?
I'm 35 now, coming up to 35 now, and this was about probably 20. It's a really, really gradual loss for probably about 3 or 4 years. Probably around 3 or 4 years ago, it started affecting me, like we've just been discussing and stuff, and I thought I've got to start doing something about it. So first of all, I actually got on the minoxidil, actually, and that had a great effect, actually. That did start working really well. And but the funny thing was like when I started the medication with finasteride, like I said, the thing that really concerned me was like the little tiny hairs on my pillows all the time, and it was like clumps of hair and stuff coming off. But when I started finasteride, within literally about probably 3 or 4 months, I noticed that the hairs weren't on my pillow anymore.
Yeah, I see. That's that's the first appreciable difference that I saw when I started finasteride. Back in the mid '90s, and I saw. I mean, it was such a relief for me to see that cessation of hair loss, and it's a big deal. It really is. And so, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, and as you can imagine, just you are skeptical if these things are going to work or not, and to have in actual fact, if you think about the emotional side of things and how long hair loss actually starts to kick in. I mean, obviously it's different for a lot of people. Some people it's very dramatic and very sudden. Like myself, very, very prolonged. You can kind of get away with it for the best part of a decade or so. And then if you think about, you've put up with it for a period of time, whether it's short, medium or long, but to have something that is out there that can work in relatively quite a short time period, if you think about how long people might suffer emotionally and physically in terms of changing in the hair, to see something work within months, you've got to give it a shot, I think. I mean, people kind of forget about.
How did you get past? How do you get past the all the stuff that's out there? You see, when I started, no one was using finasteride for hair loss, so it was kind of like I was a guinea pig. And even though there were doctors out there that, this is even before they knew much about the drug at all, there were a few doctors out there that said that I would have feminizing side effects because the older drugs for benign prostate hyperplasia or enlarged prostate were giving people severe side effects. This was a new drug at the time that was being used for prostate enlargement. And, there was really little known about any long-term adverse side effects because it was really just approved for that. And I was discouraged initially, but I found a doctor who read what was going on in the physician's desk reference as far as, the clinical trials and the side effects in the clinical trials. And he told me that, as far as all the drugs that he's ever prescribed, this has the best safety profile he's ever seen, which allayed my fears. And there was nothing about it online. So I jumped on it. And at the time, I was taking 5 milligrams of finasteride a day. So, in the world of the hair loss world now, I mean, people basically would be thinking and writing that, Coben was poisoning himself. But in my world, in my life, and in my experience, it changed my life. I was on 5 milligrams a day for a very long time until I started to do intermittent therapy. Look, I'm going on 20 years on this drug. And at least to my knowledge, I've had no adverse side effects that at least I'm aware of. And it's changed my life. It's why I'm here today. It's because of that drug. So I think guys are doing themselves a tremendous disservice by not considering it and by reading all the insanity that's out there online. And I'm not saying that some of this stuff isn't happening to people, but there is something in the world and in medicine, and basically it's likened to kind of a mass hysteria effect, where this nocebo effect or placebo effect could actually be just put out there in such a blanketed way that guys are so shit scared to even touch the pill. So, I mean, how'd you get over it? How did you get to the point where you said, you know what, I'm just going to try it? Because you were faced with all this stuff that's being written about it online.
Well, I mean, the way I looked at things, I mean, I like to really research and just investigate myself. And I've got a lot of friends that are GPs, and I've been around that kind of environment. And the way I looked at it, like you said, that the 5 milligram tablet is a 30-year-old drug.
Right.
And if you actually, and this is just basic information for people. I mean, you can actually look up the specific product characteristics of any drug online. There's a database on there. So if you just type in finasteride SPC, you can go straight into the interactions and all the clinical data online. Everyone has access to that. And you will see that finasteride as a molecule is actually very, very low risk. There's hardly any interactions with it, with anything. There's very few drugs that do that. Usually there's an interaction with
alcohol,
one or two, and you've got to watch yourself. Yeah, exactly. And like you said, Spencer, it's been around for 30 years. People
close
are
to
taking
30.
5 milligram dose for benign prostate hyperplasia. They've been taking that, and really, side effect-wise, there wasn't a lot out there in terms of considering the dose that you're taking. So then, when the 1 milligram dose came out, specifically for hair loss, we're taking, a fifth of the actual dose compared to people that are on this drug for life for the actual initial indication that it came out for. You've got to just weigh that up and say, hang on a minute, we're taking a fifth of the dose. Someone like yourself, and there's many people out there that are taking this drug for many years and have to, are absolutely fine. You've got, it's not a direct correlation, but there's going to be a lot less potential side effects with a fraction of the dose. So it just logically made sense to give it a shot, considering this is a well-tried and tested drug for its initial indication for benign prostate hyperplasia.
Right.
It's the kind of same route which minoxidil came about. It was initially a blood pressure tablet, which is still there for treatment-resistant hypertension. And in actual fact, it has got some effect in growing hair as well, believe it or not, the actual oral form. But that's how minoxidil came about. So these drugs have been tried and tested for many, many years, and they've just been brought out into a dose that's suitable and appropriate for the actual new indication, which is hair loss. That's the same for minoxidil as it is for finasteride. So, you got to weigh all that up, and if this was such a big problem, it wouldn't be around anymore. Like some of the other drugs, you can think about Vioxx, that was out years ago, as a painkiller, non-steroidal, got banned because people were dying from it. It's not doing that, So if you read, certain sites out there and see what's being touted online, everyone actually thinks that there's a possibility of this drug being banned because so many people are being harmed. There's a case of a guy that they talk about online a lot who it was covered by the news. Young guy who ended up committing suicide, and the people online are claiming that it's because of the finasteride use. If you really look at the story, the truth is this kid actually switched from finasteride to dutasteride and ended up, having really severe side effects. Now, I'm not even saying that it's necessarily just because of the dutasteride, but how the story is not really being relayed online the way that it actually went down. This kid did not kill himself because he was on finasteride. When he did kill himself, he was actually on dutasteride, from everything that I know about this particular story. So everything that's being put out there online, in many ways and in many cases, is being misrepresented. And I do not think that and I want all these guys, and you included, Ben, who have been taking finasteride, who are taking the brand name from Merck. This drug will never be banned. There's no reason to ban this drug. It's okay to add certain warnings that there have been some cases of guys complaining of persistent adverse side effects, even though there's no causal effect proven yet. But for all these guys who are out there who are beating the drum saying you got to ban this drug, think about the thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of guys who are
taking this drug for benign prostate hyperplasia and for hair loss with tremendous success, with no adverse side effects. You know, I mean, we're doing well on this. So for the handful of guys who are not doing well, unfortunately, you know, believe me, this is not going to affect. It may affect Merck's bottom line as far as all the bad press it's getting, but it's not going to take the drug off the market. So, you know, I'm glad that you called in to tell your story. Go ahead, Specs.
Ben, thanks for calling the show. It's been a pleasure to listen to you, actually. Refreshing, in fact. You know, you obviously, am I right in thinking you're a GP? Are you a GP, or you? I missed that bit on the feed.
No, I'm not a GP, but I've been in that environment. I've been selling in medical sales, so I'm very, very fair with drug research and, you know, the clinical trial data, and I know how to kind of look between the lines of what's going on there, you know. So
no, clearly, and I mean, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And just remind me, how long have you now been taking the drug finasteride? And in terms of, I mean, how long have you actually been taking it initially?
So it's going to be starting my 5th year now. So I've been on it for a good 4+ years. So coming.
Oh, fantastic! So have you potentially kind of maintained, or did you regrow anything on it? How did the drug actually benefit you? Do you feel over that 5 year period? And are you just taking 1 milligram a day? Is it?
Yeah, just 1 milligram a day, and I also do take minoxidil foam, and I think that's been very good as well. But in terms of how I think I've benefited from it, like I said, this absolutely stabilised the loss. I think it's probably strengthened what was there already, and dare I say, maybe a very marginal sort of closure of the crown area where I'm receding a little bit as well, leaving a little bit here there. But generally, it's probably stabilization and no more loss with a combination of minoxidil. It's not doing it on its own, I don't think.
Well, brilliant. I mean, that's ideal, isn't it? It's all you can ask for. But it's great that somebody as well informed as you, clearly, is able to kind of read between the lines and potentially start taking the drug with a potentially a bit more of a PMA, positive mental attitude with regards to approaching it. Because as you've read online, I'm sure
I'm gonna have to cut you off. Mike, do you? Your name's Mike, right? Oh, Ben. I'm sorry, Ben. Do you have your computer on in the background?
Yeah, do you want me to shut that down? Or?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great. Just turn off. Just mute the sound. I'm hearing Specs echo in the background. Go ahead, Specs.
Oh, sorry, I think I am echoing a little bit tonight. Probably the way that the feed's coming in, but yeah.
Do you have any of your volume up on your computer?
The volume's pretty down. The volume down, but am I still echoing now?
You sound okay to me.
Okay, no worries. You know what? I can't even remember what I was talking about. But Ben, listen, the bottom line is it's great news that you approached it with a positive attitude. I wish more people could approach it with a cleaner slate going into it, because a lot of guys do read into the negativity around the drug. I mean, did you experience any side effects going into the drug, knowing that there were potentially going to be them?
Well, again, because like I said, I'm in the business of looking into. I'm chatting with GPs on the drugs that I've sold as a salesman, and one of the things that we come up with is the side effect profile of any drug. You're always going to get side effects, you know, and the statement a drug company will come out with any product is that, you know, the side effects are tolerable, transient. Transient side effects are something that basically they may cause side effects initially, but they will go away within 2 to 3 weeks. There's a lot of drugs that do that. And finasteride may also cause side effects with some people, yes, but it can also disappear as well if you give it enough time. Now, I kind of play devil's advocate a little bit anyway, because I will always sort of wean myself on rather than going straight into something that I have to be on for a long time use for, you know, because that's another way of titrating yourself up. Doctors do it in blood pressure treatment. You know, if it's not working at 2.5 milligrams, let's try 5. That's looking for a positive effect without the side effects. But you can twist that around and say, okay, look, I'm going to be on 1 milligram for the rest of my life if I want to have or maintain my hair. it's not going to kill me just to gently feed myself into a system that my body's never had before, and let's just see how it rolls. And so that's how I do anything, really. I always want to use the bare minimum just to see if my body's going to, going to respond, and go from there. And so I kind of had that sort of approach to it, and I had no trouble with it, doing it that way. And it's just, it's probably just another idea of trying it out. I mean, you are just dipping your feet in the water with something that you're going to be on a lifelong drug for. So why not? Why not just inch your way into it? Because, taking a subtherapeutic dose over a number of weeks, considering, again, if you look at the reality, you have to be on this, as long as you're on it, it's going to have an effect. It's not a big time to just test the water.
And listen, I think that's a smart approach, and I recommend that for a lot of guys. For me, I jumped in feet first. We didn't know what the potential was of taking the 5 milligram dose for a young guy when I was young at the time, and I did really well. At one point, I actually ended up, and I'm hearing an echo too now. So you have your computer down, Ben? You sure?
Yeah, definitely it's down.
Yeah, let me see if. That's really weird. There's something happening with the feed, probably from New York. I ended up going actually up to 7.5 milligrams at one point in my life because there was no data on the drug. I actually went through an initial shed, probably about 6 months into, or not initial shed, but the dread shed about 6 months into taking the product. So since there was nothing out there, I thought it stopped working. So I upped my dosage to 7.5 milligrams. I had no problems with that either. I really tolerated the drug well. There's no one in my personal life who I recommended taking this drug who has ever suffered with any adverse side effects, let alone any long-term side effects. And most of my contemporaries, my friends, and I have a nice, strong field of friends that I've basically grown up with, they're all on it now. So that's echo's killing me. So listen, Ben, I'm actually going to take another call. I may have to take a break and go tell our studios in New York to see if they could fix what's happening. But I think it's a very safe drug. It's done wonders for me. Specs has been on for years. It's great to hear a young guy call in with your experience who's had success on the drug, because I really feel for the young guys who are so shit scared to jump on this, to take it, because it's really the only thing besides minoxidil that we have in our arsenal that we know will stop the progression of hair loss and maybe regrow hair.
I agree, and I think you guys are just putting out the message really good, and it's a great show, and thanks very much for having me on. So I look forward to hearing a lot more content for you guys.
All right, man. Listen, thank you so much for the call. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The phone number is 0203-3724683. Now I don't hear the echo, so I don't know if it was coming from my phone system or if he actually did have his computer down, which he may have thought that he did, but maybe it's coming through his headset or something like that. Let's take another call and see if we can make this thing work. Hey, you're on the Bald Truth. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Yo, it's Hariri.
Hey, what's happening, dude?
Man, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm glad to call back. I just came back from Malaysia, so I'm really happy to hear your voice now.
Well, I'm glad that you called back, man. So what were you doing in Malaysia?
Well, visiting some family member. My wife's family are there, and it was really an interesting vacation. And I just came back to work last week, and I'm really happy that the show resumed at last.
Well,
I thought it's every week, but I think now it's every other week.
Yeah, it's every other week for now, and then we'll see how things roll. But we were having some serious technical problems, but we got it all hooked up, and Specs is sounding pretty good, looking pretty good, and hopefully we can make this happen at least bi-monthly. We'll see how everything rolls. Maybe it'll end up being weekly.
However, I think I have very, and I would like to say hello to Specs as well. I'm not watching the show live right now. I'm just calling. So there is something that I'm really a little bit disappointed that Joe from Staten Island, he did not bring it into attention, which is a new drug. It's not really a drug, or some people consider it as a supplement, but it's a very good alternative to Propecia, and it's called Keratin Alpha Active Retard. And the thread in the Bald Truth Talk is booming, and everybody's contributing into it, but nobody tried to talk about it.
So why don't you tell listeners about it and what your thoughts are?
Well, I emailed the company and I got a lot of answers. Okay, so let me just read you some part of it. Actually, the Keratin Alpha Active Retard is a very new, just launched last year in Berlin, and at the annual meeting of the FUE Europe Society. And Keratin Alpha Active Retard is a systemic 5-ARD enzyme catalyze inhibitor and an indirect DHT depressor, not suppressor. Now, the thing is, finasteride is suppressor. This is more like a depressor. Finasteride still is more effective. It's more acknowledgeable, but when it comes to what do you call it, the Keratin Alpha Active Retard, it's a very good alternative. And how does it work? The molecules work not by inhibiting the production of 5-ARD enzymes or by regulation the secretion of hormones, but rather by attracting itself by electrochemical valence to the 5-ARD enzyme and acting as an insulating factor. As such, the transfer of atoms of hydrogen to the testosterone molecules happens in a lower ratio. This leads to turn to an overall reduction of DHT. And you know what? There's one thing I really would like to talk about. I asked them a question, and I told them, what is the difference between the Keratin Alpha Active Retard and the finasteride? And then they say that the Keratin Alpha Active Retard is a completely different. Finasteride is a synthetically engineered molecule with specific chemical properties. Keratin Alpha Active Retard is an organic compound, not engineered. Finasteride has the chemical potential to penetrate the blood-brain barrier, okay, and has the biochemical potential to influence the pineal gland, the process that coordinates the production of lutropin, the correlation of the sex-binding hormone, globulin, DHEA, and many other related factors. And in addition, it might increase the long-term risk.
So what you're thinking, what you're saying is, besides it crossing into the brain, are you a believer that finasteride could actually cause penile shrinkage?
Yeah, I swear. I mean, look.
Well, then maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's what happened to me. I don't know. You know,
I think that's what happened to me. Hey, I didn't get it. Can you start it from the top again? Let's run it again.
That's another
Buddy,
thing
no. Back to LA.
Yeah, the product is safer than any other alternative available on the market today. It does not interfere with the endocrine production of hormones, and it's safe to you. In other words, up to date, there is no user reported any sort of erectile dysfunction or libido problems. There are many informations I got from them, and also, like Pearl Hair Clinic in Belgium, which are very recommended. They're very good. They actually recommended it, and they are promoting it into their website, and they have also a lot of information about it. And I could read a lot about it, but I mean, there was a lot of clinical trials. They found out that DHT level can go down from 1,673 pg per ml up to 849, and they recommended 2 capsules a day. However, I don't want to market this whole drug online, but I mean, I find it it's more like an answer for me because.
Well, look, I can tell you this, that we currently have the most active Keratin Alpha Active Retard, which is, it's funny that it's named Retard thread on the internet. So I definitely see what's going on. I mean, it's got to be, I don't know how many pages long, but it's insane how much activity it is and how many people are being drawn from all over the world to this thread about this product. So I certainly get it. I just haven't seen really any spectacular, results at this point. But people are talking about it, so I'm open to it, dude. I've been on this drug for a long time. Who knows? What it's doing to me. Believe me, I think about it all the time. Now I feel fairly confident that my penis hasn't shrunken any more than it already was from being on this drug for 20 years. But who the hell knows? I don't know what's going on. I feel good on it. I've had a lot of success on it. But if there is something out there that is going to help people avoid these potential side effects and be just as effective, if not more effective, then shit, man, I'm on the bandwagon. I'm all for it. So I want this conversation to continue on Bald Truth Talk. And I like the fact that you're bringing this to our attention. And you know what? Joe has his own issues that he's dealing with. And sometimes, he may, it's either because he doesn't believe in something or whatever it is. He's just a guy that calls the show just like everybody else. And I'm just a guy that, kind of turned this into my career, but I don't know everything either. So I appreciate the fact that you're bringing it to the table.
No, Spencer, the composition of this thing is a sterol complex, phytoextract, and saccharose. That's what I read. This is it. Well, actually, like I said, Propecia is still the king, it's still the best in the market. But for people who suffered sexual side effects from it,
right?
I think this product somehow will work well with with minoxidil, because I'm going to repeat this again and again. Propecia and minoxidil restored my hair big time. And since I stopped Propecia, I lost a great amount of hair, which led me to do a hair transplant. So I think this will somehow help me to at least suppress the DHT. Well, I've been using Sulfalmato, and I would say that it really somehow works, but I think this will be more effective. So I really wish people will have a good experience about it. So far, like our 4 members are trying it right now, and
you know what I would like? I would like for these guys to have great experience on it, but to kind of like give people an opportunity to consider using finasteride as opposed to going on every thread and trying to destroy people's confidence in the possibility that finasteride could help them. If this is something that is going to help the guys that are shit scared of it avoid using finasteride, great. If this is something for guys like you who have had adverse side effects from finasteride, terrific. But I would love for the discussion to just be a lot more civil on the forum about finasteride use. Get your opinions out there. If you've had a negative experience with finasteride, let people know about it. But to have this militant approach, and I'm not saying you do, but other guys in the forum, where anyone who just wants to talk about their experience about the drug, on the drug, and ask questions, reasonable questions about the drug, I don't think they should be slammed. I don't think they should be hit with, if you take this drug, you're going to lose your penis, because that's not the truth. I think the truth should be put out there in a reasonable way, and everyone's opinion is welcome. But give people a chance to try to help themselves. That's all I ask. Listen, Harari, man, I appreciate the call. We're going to take some other phone calls. Cool.
All right.
Listen, thanks a lot. I appreciate that, and I hope that people.
God bless, man.
You too, and I hope that people check out the Carotene Alpha Active retard thread. It makes me laugh when I say that. On baldtruthtalk.com, because there's a lot of great information. Maybe this is something that could help you as well. Thanks a lot, dude.
Let's get retarded.
Right, man. Take it easy. 0203-3724-683. Well, I'll tell you, Specs, he's passionate about this.
Go retards. Yeah, man. I love that guy. He's just so passionate about just finding new information, and he's a great caller to have on the show. He's great on the forums, and
nice
I wish
guy.
him all the best.
I happen to like him a lot. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, I wish him all the best as well. He's with his repair procedures upcoming as well. So yeah, lovely guy, and always a pleasure to have on the show. And
all right, let's take some
good
calls.
Interesting info.
Absolutely.
All the best as well with his repair procedures.
Hey, dude, you got to turn down your computer. You're on the Bald Truth. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
On the show. And, some good, interesting info.
Hey, dude.
Absolutely.
You got to turn down your computer. You're on the air. Who's this?
You got to turn on your computer. You're on the Bald Truth.
All right, I got to hang up on you, dude. Thanks for the call. Hey, is this Chris?
Yeah.
Hey, man, I figure I'd come back to you. Thanks for holding on.
No problem.
Yeah. So what do you think about these callers? What do you think about the guy that called in about finasteride? I know you're a fan and you always want to kind of discuss your experience and the fact that, you read all the stuff in the forums and you think that it's kind of doing people a disservice as well.
Yeah. No, I think he's a great caller, to be honest. I couldn't have I was actually surprised that a caller like that called in. I think it's just really good.
Well, you know what it is? I think people don't have the courage to say, and maybe this is an anonymous platform, even more anonymous than the forum. Because I'm not going to give out any information about anybody, who calls in. But I think that, there are guys out there who have, they want to let people know that they've had success with this drug and that it's worked for them, and they want to share that experience, and they're really not allowed to on the forums because they get attacked.
Yep.
Yeah, no, completely. And Spence, just to go back to that, because we had to hang up on, I think his name was Ben. We had to hang up on Ben because there was an echo, but he made a really valid point just at the end of his call with regards to kind of a transition onto the drug. And I've made a topic on Bald Truth Talk, Propecia Transition, I think it is. Which basically, to summarize what he was saying is, if you're going to get on the drug, just introduce it to yourself gradually. It's like if you go on a date, you don't try and get the girl into bed straight away. It's a case of just introduce yourself, wine and dine it, and there's various.
So
I know. Well, Chris, it depends how many shots you've had. I mean, I know you, buddy, but the point being, and let's keep it PG, boys. With regards to allow your body to get used. I've come across a lot of guys. Oh yeah, I've got side effects. I've been on it 3 weeks. Oh, how much? I've been taking 5 milligrams a day. It's like, well, just ease off a little bit. And a good kind of just to summarize, you can take 1 tablet every initially, because you're on this drug for the rest of your life, and that's what Ben was saying. Is like take 1 tablet a week for the first month, and then take 2 tablets a week for the next month, and just build yourself up gradually and allow the body to get used to it. And I just wanted to, I made a little point of, because I think that was a really great point that Ben made that we didn't get an opportunity to elaborate further on. But yeah, all good. Back to you boys with regards to any other topics, Chris, that you might be going down on the forums. Is there anything else cracking up?
Yeah, there was actually, but the thing was, the first caller sort of touched on it, but it was just going back to really of with Turkey, really, whether it was rightly or wrongly becoming a cosmetic destination hotspot for surgery, and in particular hair restoration. Not just hair restoration. It seems that a lot of the British people are attracted to that, and I do remember that Spencer saying that he'd had, I don't know if it was in the last 3 to 6 months, that he'd had a load of, an influx of Turkish clinics applying for the IHRS recommended surgeons. And, I just feel that the main attraction with it is just a cheap cost and the selling of the sexiness of the FUE being non-invasive and the notion of non-scarring. But to be honest, I think what it is, I really think you're walking into the unknown, taking a huge risk doing like that.
Let me tell you, I just got involved in the mainstream world of cosmetic surgery, and cosmetic surgery tourism is huge. And I will tell you that the horror stories that I have heard, because I'm getting involved in something that's kind of similar to what we're doing here, but in a different way. But the horror stories that I've heard, they're compelling. They are compelling. Let me tell you something. If I was going to have cosmetic surgery, first of all, I will say that the UK is hurting as far as really good information on cosmetic surgery. And it's a lot of shenanigans going on in the UK. It's terrible over there. There's a lot of shit going on here because, most plastic surgery today is not being performed by plastic surgeons. It's being performed by GPs and ER docs and, urologists, guys who basically are scrambling to learn to get some sort of semblance of cosmetic expertise because this is a discipline that doesn't require insurance. It's a cash business, so to speak. So because of what's happening with Obamacare now and because of what's happening with, all of the general insurance issues that doctors are having, anyone who has an MD or DO is really trying to get into the cosmetic field, and it's becoming a fucking disaster. and to travel to get it even less expensively, or to get cheap cosmetic surgery in my view, in a country like Turkey, you really got to do your research, man. You got to make sure that these are truly plastic surgeons or cosmetic surgeons or guys that really have real skill and the right staff that it takes and the infrastructure to perform state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration, and forget about the price. Forget about how sexy it sounds to travel to Turkey and to maybe have a vacation and to get cheap cosmetic surgery, because in the long run, I really believe that a lot of guys are going to come back totally fucked up. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. Yeah. I think my worry as well is that the clinic's not screened or scrutinised, and like they are in the IHRS. I mean, that's one reason why I felt confident with the surgeons that are around, because I know what I'm getting myself into with some of these surgeons. I mean, I must admit, I've seen some of the work from the surgeons. I haven't met any people in person who've had work done, but I mean, I've seen some of the work done by, I think, Dr. Keza, there's a guy on one of the forums that looked very good. And also, I think Dr. Corey Durgan, he's a member of there's like a new ISHRS FUE committee at the moment with John Carl and Lorenzo. I think he's a member of that. He's not a member of the IHRS.
Right.
I've seen some work online that looks reasonably thin, but I don't know how consistent they are. I don't really know any more than that.
Let me just tell you something about. I'll tell you something about these committees. The whole thing is completely political. So if someone is on a committee, if someone is in a committee on the ISHRS, in my view, well, I think it's wonderful that they formed this committee. It's never going to really, in my view, progress anything. Anyone who's going to be able to join, it's going to be it's run in a very democratic fashion, not to hurt anybody's feelings. So it's just the way that it is. But I think Kessler may actually have a pretty good track record, because I've received no complaints. So to me, that is proof positive that at the very least, especially since he's out there, at least he's not doing any damage that we're aware of. So I think that's a good sign. You still got to check it out for yourself, man. You got to see patients if you're going to travel. And since it's going to be so cheap, like I told this guy from Denmark, Tiger Norwood, he can take kind of a reconnaissance mission, and he'll still save money if he decides to go there. But he's got to see for himself, man. You can't just sign on that dotted line.
They'll probably even pay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, man. I was just going to say they'll probably pay for him to fly out there at that kind of rate. With regards to say again.
No, I'm sure, absolutely. And I apologize. You're definitely having a lot of trouble with Skype for whatever reason. So just kind of skip a beat, and we'll make this work.
No worries. I mean, back to you. I mean, I am having a problem with the Skype feed. I can't hear very well. But obviously, these guys are pricing themselves so competitively to give themselves the advantage on the competition. And it's going to be interesting to see when and by how much they increase their prices, because at €1 a graft, how they can be covering their overheads on. I mean, that's kind of €2,500, let's say, for a 2,500 FUE. And it's like, listen, that's a big session. Not everybody's going to be having that.
But that's amazing. And if you can, if they can continue those prices and offer great work, then shit.
They can't. They can't. There's no way. Listen, how can it's like £2,000 spent?
We're in the industry. We understand how it works. There's not a doctor that's really lowballed, that eventually didn't get a good online reputation, that has not either raised their rates to meet their competition, or actually above their competition, because they were able to develop a reputation. That's the way that it works, and that's the way that it works in every industry. So I just say be wary. It doesn't mean that this guy's doing bad work. He may be doing fantastic work. Just do your due diligence. Listen, Chris, we're going to take some more phone calls, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to call in. I love the fact that you had fun last night, and that you actually suggested to have this broad listen to the show, which is hilarious to me that she's listening to a hair loss show. So more power to you, man. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, Chris. Cool. Thanks very much.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.
0203-372-4683. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the Ball Truth. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hello, you're on the Ball Truth. Who's this and where are you calling from? All right, next caller. Hey, you're on the Ball Truth. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hello. I'm Chris from Scotland.
Oh, hey, Chris. Welcome to the show. What can I do for you?
Thanks very much. I just thought I'd pop by and say hi to you guys. I listened to the American show for a while, and I've been on the forum for a little bit.
Very
and
cool.
it's just good to call in and speak to you guys.
Well, tell me what's your
Cool.
situation?
Who do you post as?
What's that, sorry? Specs? Hello?
Specs asks, who do you post at?
Do you have a username on the forum?
Yeah, I'm actually Breaking Bold.
Oh, Breaking Bald, man.
Ah, Breaking Board. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So,
you too.
So tell me your situation. I'm going to be honest that I can't spend as much time on the forum as I would like to. I usually read it like on Tuesdays and kind of just peruse and also read some of the complaints from the guys. But I don't really know what your backstory is. So why don't you let us know what's up?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I started losing my hair when I was about 19 years old, and it started really slowly. Very small recession around the temples, and I was kind of in complete denial about it, really. So I grew my hair pretty long, and I wore like a big fringe, and it didn't really bother me because I was sort of in denial about it. But I'm almost 23 now, but about 2 years ago, it just started to speed up, pretty drastically.
Yeah.
Now I'm about a Norwood 2.5, I would say, on the temples. The crown has thinned out quite dramatically, so that really alarmed me quite a lot.
Now, have you considered? Are you on finasteride now, or are you a guy that's shit scared to take it?
Yeah, basically, I'm pretty nervous about taking it. I mean, I'm on the forums quite a lot, and every day there's.
It's probably not a good idea, dude. It's probably not a good idea to hang out on the forums. I appreciate the traffic, but you'd probably be a lot healthier if you just stepped away for a while.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's just a habit. You're always checking that. You're trying to hope some new news is going to come out.
And you also like the gossip. You like the bullshit that goes on, the drama. Some of the guys on there. I mean, it's addictive. I get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, sometimes the drama gets way too much. I mean, there's a lot of craziness on there. There's a lot of
oh my god,
very negative people, and
yes,
you reckon?
There's a lot of bullshit,
Well, the thing is, what I try to do is, I want everyone to have an opportunity to kind of vent and get themselves out there. It is frustrating. Like when I'll go in there and I'll read it, or we get the complaints. We do try to moderate and curb, what's going on. We obviously we have a full-time moderator, but sometimes by allowing these people to vent, I've seen over the years that eventually they either kind of change their tune, or they kind of become better people because eventually the forum tends to kind of keep people in their place. But there are always going to be a couple of guys that are just so uncontrollable that their stuff has to be moderated, and you just kind of have to deal with them as kind of like the crazies of the forum.
Sure, there's definitely a few characters around there known as the crazies.
That's right.
Back to Propecia. I think I would just be so concerned being on it. I'd be a little bit too paranoid, thinking, if there was something wrong with me, I'd be thinking, is it the Propecia, or is my sex drive is fluctuating? Is it the Propecia? Is it the Propecia? So I mean, I've thought about it a lot, but for me, I think it would just make me worse for wear. But I
understand that. And I think that's reasonable. I mean, if you know that you have the type of personality that is easily affected by the possibility of thinking about this, then I would say you're probably better off not taking it.
I mean, you never really seem to talk much about Rogaine on the show. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, Spencer? I mean, you always talk about Propecia. I mean, do you not feel it's really much of an effective treatment?
Well, in my experience, and this is not just based on my personal experience, but this experience over the years being involved in this industry for so long, I think minoxidil kind of acts like a Band-Aid. I think that, and I used it for a while, and it definitely helped me. I benefited from it. It kind of got me to the point where, because I started losing hair at 21, I didn't get on finasteride till I was like, I think 27 or 28, something like that. So really all I had was minoxidil. Even before it was approved for hair loss, I was going to a physician who was basically giving me a compounding prescription to bring to my pharmacy. And they would compound the Lanacin tablets into like an alcohol and propylene glycol base. And I would rub this crap on my head and wake up with like white powder, on my scalp. So I started early on. It definitely helped me. But I do believe that eventually it loses its effectiveness a lot more quickly than finasteride. I don't really believe finasteride loses its effectiveness. I think that eventually maybe if someone has a very, very strong predisposition to male pattern baldness, sometimes it kind of overcomes the drug and it's less effective for some people. But for most people, I think it lasts a pretty long time, myself included. I think that it's okay to use to use Rogaine, but what happens is eventually people kind of become addicted to it because they see that the hair loss is continuing after a few years, but they keep doing it out of fear of going through a tremendous shed. And I was one of those guys as well. I weaned myself off it over months, almost a year. And this was probably back in 2003, I think, when I weaned myself off of it. So I was on it for a long time. And I had no major shedding. But, I just kind of think that I would always suggest that what a lot of doctors suggest, to kind of start with one agent first. And the most effective agent that we have right now is finasteride. But if you're afraid to take it and you're going through aggressive hair loss right now, or you're noticing a progression, then I think that minoxidil could bide you some time for a few years. Now, Specs, you still use minoxidil, right?
Yeah, I've been on and off it for years, but ultimately I'm on it now, and I use the foam version, and I apply it just once at night. I'm not religious with it, like I think I missed the last 3 nights, but I do it, and I add it as part of the regime. But the main foundation of my regime, as everybody knows only too well, is finasteride. Breaking Bad, Breaking Bald, mate. We've got to have a chat offline about where you are in terms of what series you're on and whether you've seen series 4 yet, because I bloody love that show. But with regards to you, are you actually using Rogaine? I do apologize if you've mentioned it. I'm having a bit of an issue with my audio. But are you using Rogaine?
No, I was using it for a small period of time. And I was only using it about once a day, but I was convinced that I was sort of getting sort of fake side effects. But I was kind of going through a lot of sleepless nights during that period, and I was feeling a lot of anxiety and stuff like that. So I'm thinking
what
it
side
might
effects?
be in my head. Just kind of like more like heart palpitations. But I mean, like I say, it's hard to kind of determine if it was just in my head. Like I say, I think I might have just been a bit paranoid. So I am considering trying it again, maybe weaning myself up just to a small dose and doing it once a day. Because, I mean, my main concern at the minute is, although I have got a male pattern baldness pattern, it is diffusing on the top, and a lot of the hair is really losing a lot of its quality. So although I have got the classic pattern, it does seem to be diffusing as well, and that really scares me quite badly. So I was hoping that maybe even just going once a day could give it a bit of strength.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, mate. There's a bit of a delay. But yeah, my honest opinion, given your circumstances and given the fact that you don't want to go on to finasteride for whatever reason, essentially, minoxidil is... Let's face it. I mean, you could throw saw palmetto in it, get on biotin, get on MSM. That's not gonna inhibit DHT, the reason that we're losing our hair, yeah? But with minoxidil, I've seen guys have fantastic results, There's also the Belgravia Center. They do their own minoxidil. I think they do their 10, their 12% analsaic acid as well. So there are alternatives to finasteride if you're not prepared to go down that route. But to be blunt, there aren't any other real options. And if you want to do something about your hair loss, even if it is to slow down the progression of your hair loss, then I would be in favor, if I were you, in my personal opinion, I would go on minoxidil, based on the fact that it can help. As long as you're well informed, and as Spencer's rightly said, it is a bit of a band-aid. It hasn't got the longevity in it that finasteride has, because it approaches hair loss differently. It like resuscitates your hair. It doesn't block the reason, it doesn't block DHT. It just essentially just gets blood flowing around your scalp. So, I mean, have you considered looking at the alternative forms of minoxidil and the higher strengths of minoxidil? I appreciate that you're off minoxidil because you were concerned about the side effects, but there are options there for you, and are you aware of those?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like Lipigain and things like that, or?
I'm not talking about a potential kind of minoxidil, to get onto minoxidil, and then with a view to, let's say, for instance, you lose ground on minoxidil, regardless of side effects, in terms of getting on an appropriate treatment. For you, minoxidil 5% might well help. If you start to lose ground on it, I know guys that have then upped the strength of minoxidil that have then enabled them to have longevity in hair loss prevention. So I'm not into all the other concoctions and everything. I'm talking about tried and tested minoxidil and extra strong minoxidil. I mean, in my personal opinion, the minoxidil foam, I don't know what form or brand you were taking, but I've seen and heard of great results from the foam version, which is easier to apply as well.
Yeah, he said he was using Regain. Listen, man, it's you know how I feel about the situation. To me, I know how, and this is, I have anxiety. I had anxiety issues that I still have to some degree. So I understand what it's like to have anxiety over something and to overthink something. And I have a little OCD, and I got a lot of issues that I talk about on the air. But so if you're thinking about anything like potential side effects from minoxidil, the stuff that you read online, guys are talking about it aging your skin and getting heart palpitations and bags under your eyes and, facial swelling or edema and things of that nature, which, I guess, it's all possible as far as at least that I know of as far as real side effects from minoxidil. You could get, slight heart palpitations, and you could get some swelling of the face depending on how much is actually absorbed systemically into your system. But that's easily countered, at least the swelling part, with a diet and drinking a lot of water and just getting that out of your system. However, you do seem like you're very susceptible, and this is not an attack in any way, because I'm the same way to some degree, very susceptible to the psychological effects of your concerns and of reading what's going on in the forum. So if at some point you can kind of get past that, then I think you should talk to your doctor about finasteride, but I would never want to push that on you because it may end up really fucking you up. I don't know, but it really depends. You have to kind of weigh out your are you going to be able to live with and enjoy your life with significant hair loss? And are you going to feel at some point, if you didn't really do everything you could to stop your hair loss, are you going to feel bad about that sometime down the line? Or do you think that, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can within a reasonable, in a reasonable fashion that makes me feel comfortable. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to shave my head and move on. Then, if you can deal with that, then this is probably the best route for you. I mean, what do you think you can deal with it as you get older?
Well, I mean, almost 23 now, and to go from such a thick head of amazing hair to what I have now in 2 years, it's been really difficult for me. It's caused a lot of depression and stuff like that.
I know, I can imagine.
And recently, I have been forced to shave my head, and it's like a 2 on the top and a 1 on the sides. And it looks okay, but it's still difficult to come to terms with. So I think I am moving to the part where, I am considering finasteride, but I think giving Rogaine a shot just for 6 months or whatever.
I think that's smart. I think that should be your first effort, is to see if Rogaine can at least, keep things at bay for a few years for you until perhaps we have something that is, has less systemic side effects or less adverse side effects that comes down the pike. And that could be, in the next 2 or 3 years. You may be one of those guys that does really well on Rogaine or Regain or, or whatever you're taking, and you don't even need finasteride. So I would say that that's probably, and again, I have to preface everything that I say by letting you guys know that I'm not a physician. And these are all just my opinions based on my personal experience and the experience of those who have contacted me over the last 15 years. But, and I will tell you this, you sound like a really normal kid, by the way. So I appreciate the fact that you're part of the forum, because you sound like you're one of the guys that really has their head on straight. And, I think you also understand some of the shenanigans and nonsense that goes on in the forum, and you're kind of able to decipher, what's legitimate information and what's not. So that's a good thing. But listen, man, I appreciate the call. I hope that we were able to help you in some way.
Yeah, sure. No, it's good. It was good speaking to you guys. I'll definitely like to call in again and let you know how things are going.
Yeah, well, listen, we'll be back live in 2 weeks, so give us a call. Let us know if you decide to get back on Rogaine, all right?
Okay, well, thanks very much.
All right, man.
Have a good night.
Take care. Thanks for the call.
Thanks for the call, buddy.
No problem.
I love hearing, when I see these guys online, I love hearing their voices and seeing what type of people they are. Tiger Norwood, really normal sounding guy from Denmark. Sounds like he's, a young guy, he's got his shit together. Breaking Ball just sounds like a nice guy, Yeah. Sounds like a nice.
And they come across like that online as well. It's
absolutely.
They do come across like it comes as no surprise to me that both those callers who we know online, because they actually, especially Breaking Ball, he speaks it as it is online, and I can see it, and it's a shame. It's such a shame that regardless of what their personalities are, but especially Breaking Ball, that he's in that position, a young guy, and he's feeling trapped.
It breaks my heart because I know what it's like. I know what it was like to be 23 years old and suffering, man. Really suffering inside, trying to talk to anybody about it, I didn't have this, no one had it, obviously. This is the dark ages, but I had no one that I was really able to talk to about it. And I tried to, and people were just blowing me off, and they didn't take it seriously. And, as much as I was suffering, and I'm telling you, I was in a dark fucking place in my early 20s, dark place, so down, so depressed, so upset with, the potential future that I was faced with. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I dealt with it the best way that I can. I was lucky enough to get through it. However, I know how difficult it is for these guys. And that's why I kind of understand why these guys go nuts online too, because they are really, really suffering. But this particular cat just seems like, just a reasonable guy who's going through some dark times. He's very depressed. But he took a step further that I could never take, and he did shave his head down, and I admire that.
Yeah, I
just
remember him making
to do that.
Sorry to interrupt you. I remember him making a topic online about him shaving all his hair off, and it was all power to him, And I think he was just trying to see how long he could go to see before it would potentially stop affecting him. But obviously, it still is, and it's a real shame. And it's a pleasure to have such a lovely guy on the show and sharing his concerns. And I'm sure many others that are listening will be able to relate to him, and he's a great poster. So anybody listening in, go and search him. But Bald, he's got Walt, the image of Breaking Bad, the main guy in it as his avatar. But yeah, real shame. But it is what it is. What can we do?
We have about 8 minutes left. I'm going to take a couple of calls. We may have to rifle through them, but let's see who this is.
Cool.
Hey, you're on the Bald Truth UK. Who's this, and where are you calling from? Hey, man, you're on the air. All right, I got to hang up on you. Can you hear me? Hey, you're on the Bald Truth. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, it's EJJ.
Hey, EJJ, what's happening? How are you?
Good. How are you? You okay?
Everything is good, man. I cannot complain. Nice to hear your voice. I just
Hey,
actually
cool.
I just checked out your last post on the repair thread, and it looks like you've come a long way, dude. I'm really happy
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, so am I. It's it's night and day really. So glad to be getting some results. Yeah, it's good. Thank you for that.
Let everybody know where you're calling from, by the way.
Well, I'm from Manchester. Yeah, Manchester, UK.
Awesome. So
Great.
so
Great to
what's
have you
up?
on the show, EJ. Finally, we've mentioned your name and your repair procedure with your beard hair countless times on various shows. It's fantastic to have you finally on the show, calling in. Thanks for calling.
Great. No, it's a pleasure to be on. I'm glad it's going from strength to strength, the UK show. So, yes, good to call up and be part of it. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'll tell you what. We got about 7 minutes, but I want people. You have a story, man. You have one hell of a story, and if you can kind of just let people know what's going on, what happened in your life. It was surgical hair restoration, and then maybe we could have you on next week, in 2 weeks, or the next time, so that we can get into more detail. I kind of wish you could have gotten through earlier, but I'm glad that you did call.
Yeah.
So let people know what's up with you, man.
Yeah, wow, it's a long story, like you say. So, but it's a repair at the moment with obviously I'm online, it's Dr. Basanga, for utilising my beard hair, really, which at the moment, probably about halfway through, it was a 6-stage process. We're at stage 4's coming up in May. So,
But you were.
we're getting there,
Let's get to the nitty gritty here. You were fucked up before. You were fucked up by people in the UK. You had a fucked up experience with ACell. I think it's important that people know your story to at least some degree for this segment. And then we can get into more detail next time you call in.
Yeah. Well, basically, it was 20 years ago. I had a procedure. It was the 4mm plugs into the hairline, and that was the start of the repair, really. Where the guy actually, I met Dr. Assman. I had a consultation with Dr. Assman, and he actually is a great guy. He sent me his book in the post, and he just said, read that. And at the time, it was cutting edge, and he just said, just stay away from the punch grafts. And the guy in New Zealand told me that he was Assman's, and he did exactly the same work, but at a fraction of the price, which was kind of like interesting listening to the conversations before about the cost of Fui in Turkey. It just reminded me really of they're saying it's the same thing, but it's in life you get what you pay for, don't you? That's generally it, and that was certainly my experience. But from there I had a couple of repair procedures in the UK which went well, and another procedure in the US that went well. Just back then, 15 years ago, it was mini grafts that was cutting edge at the time, which they did do okay, but we were talking procedures of like 300-400 grafts.
Right.
After that, I waited. And I just thought I'd just see how things go, and I ended up getting suckered really into a procedure in Greece, which it was pretty bad really, because the guy said it was Fui. When I got out there, it was 2 strips either side of my head.
So you actually thought you were going for FUE?
Yeah. I
Wow.
bought and paid for FUE. Yeah. That was the Choi implanter pen, and the guy did 2 strips to either side of my head, which resulted in quite a large scar. And then I waited, did a bit of research really. I waited about 8 years after that, 8-9 years, and then I had a procedure with ACell, which I think it kind of like makes the tissue go softer and more prone to stretch. But
I think that's actually a good point that people need to know about. Jerry Cooley actually just put out his newer findings, and what he did find, and I'm glad that he spoke about this openly, is when he was putting the ACell in between the incision sites, that it seemed that because the tissue was coming in, it wasn't fibrotic. It was coming in as though it was just natural tissue. The scars were stretching, as opposed to putting it underneath the layer completely without putting it in between the scar. So that was a unfortunate fuck up for you, because you suffered with a really big gap of non-scarred, non-fibrotic tissue, but actually just soft, normal tissue that is not hair-bearing. And man, that sucked. I
Yeah.
mean, you actually contacted me, and you're a very diplomatic, kind person, and I really appreciate not only the way you've contacted me over the years, but the way that you conduct yourself on the forum. You let it roll. You let people know what's going on. You give your opinion, but you don't come across as an embittered person. You just want to educate people, and there's a big difference, in the way in different people's approaches. And I appreciate your approach. But I will tell you that I felt so bad for you when we spoke. And, I'm just glad that you're at a point now where you kind of be able to get past this. But I think you are right to warn people. And I admire the fact that you are.
I think, what I see going on in the industry today, whether it's automatic punch tools, robots, whatever, I really think people just need to just wait, really, rather than do anything. Just wait, and let's wait for the results. Let's see, what these things can do. These new technologies, new procedures. Let's just wait. And I did kind of like with Beard Body Hurt. I just sort of needed to find somebody who could produce results, and I kind of like waited on that, really. And I'm glad I did. Like you say, it was a dark place that I was in, and I'm glad I'm kind of like coming through it really now. So,
well, even in your dark place, and this is what I found so appealing about you when we spoke, you still seem like, all right, I'm fucked up, I'm dealing with this, but you didn't seem, and I'm sure you were depressed about it, but you still seemed like you were just you were going on with life in a positive way.
I think I don't think I was depressed. I'd say I was a bit more pissed off. Really, I felt a bit stupid, going for something that was pretty much untested.
Yeah.
What I did was I just kind of like, I think if you, kind of like segment your life into things like your family, your friends, work, gym, and kind of like put her in a part of that, but don't make it all of that. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I do know what you mean, man.
Yeah, I just think that kind of like helped really, rather than, make it, all of your life. I do think that when you're 20, 22, as I was, I think it's quite devastating. That's why I look back at these guys, and I can relate to that, because, at that age, it's everything. You're going out, meeting girls, if you're losing your hair, it's a hell of a thing to deal with. As you get older, I think it does become less of a thing.
It does, and it also depends on what position you are in life, and your station in life, and just how you feel about yourself. It is a lot easier to meet a woman now. How old are you now, by the way?
44.
Okay, so we're close in age. I'm older than you. I'm 47. I'm going to be 48 in a couple of months. I do know that if common law, ended up dumping me, or dying, God forbid, or whatever it is, and I went into the dating scene, it would be a lot easier for me. Probably a lot of it has to do with what I do for a living too, because I could just tell people, and then just don't touch the hair. I've been dealing with this, and they would deal with it. But I would be probably a lot less self-conscious about the comb over and everything that I do with it than I was when I was 26, 27 years old. So I certainly feel for these guys. When I hear these young guys like Breaking Balls and other guys that call this broadcast, it breaks my heart, because I know that there's life after hair loss, and I know that these guys can get through with it, and they can make decisions that can help them get on with their lives, whether it's a hair transplant, whether it's they do well on medication, or even, and God forbid I even mention this to people, but even, wearing a hair system that is undetectable, and, it's going to take a lot of maintenance though. But there are times in your life, different stages, when you can start thinking about these different processes and these, this type of treatment, and you can get on with your life. I know a guy who is one of the most highly functioning guys, and he's involved with, this is the most highly functioning couple I've ever met. They recently started a company that has taken off. It's huge. And this is a guy that wears a hair system. He doesn't really talk about it. And obviously his significant other knows about it. And she is a drop-dead gorgeous girl. This guy just said, screw it. This is the option that I've chosen to take. And he started wearing young. And he's lived an incredible life. And again, so highly functioning, passionate about his life. Met a drop-dead, LA 10 who's just smoking. So he figured out a way to do it. So I just tell all these guys, if you can figure out a way to be comfortable in your own skin and get past some of the social stigma of it, you could live your life and have a great life. And I think you're a fine example of that.
Yeah, I think being a repair patient, what actually happens is you actually try to look normal again. You know, I mean, it's like somebody said to me, you know, the way that I would describe you is that you've been disfigured.
Yes.
And when you're dealing with that, you're trying to move from being disfigured by doctors to, you know, being normal. And you know, you take an Norwood 5 and Norwood 6 any day. You know, I mean, people would say, you know, if you could be Norwood 5, completely bald, like, you know, the guy off Star Trek, then you'd snatch your hands off, you know, and just be able to, like, go out there and go swimming and go running and not worry about anybody looking at your scars. You know, it's a huge thing. But to actually come from that and then start, you know, people, you know, saying to you, look, we're having another procedure and where do you want the grafts and all that, and you can actually address a thinning crown or a thinning forelock. You know, it's somewhere where I certainly never thought I would be, you know. So, yeah, it's a big change for me, really.
Well, and that's why your story is so important, to let these guys know that once you're cut, you're cut. I say that all the time. And if you think at some point maybe you're going to be equipped to be a Norwood 5, you know, maybe having any surgery isn't for you, because even in the best hands, the best surgeon, the best staff, whatever it is, you never know what the fuck could happen. You just don't. So you have to be fully prepared. You know, even if you're going to an IHRS surgeon, whoever, you have to be prepared for the possible, you know, fuck up, the possible situation where you're the anomaly and you're the one who's screwed over.
Yeah.
And that goes for any cosmetic surgery.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I was listening to the show earlier and people are talking about $1 a graft or €1 a graft. And, you know, I mean, come on, that speaks volumes, really. I mean, you know, it's just a big red flag to me, you know what I mean?
Well, you know what, it is to me as well, but I don't want to say anything negative about this doctor, because honestly, he could be great. You know, I just don't know enough about him. I've seen some work online and it seems reasonable, and I've not gotten complaints. So to me, that's all a good sign. So this guy may be offering a great service for people. So I think everyone needs to be kept, you know, open-minded.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying any particular doctor. I'm just saying any clinic, any doctor anywhere, like €1, $1.
Hey,
whatever. It just seems a bit iffy.
Go ahead, Specs.
No, thanks, Spence. Ed, it's Jay, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on the show, and just listening to your story, I know it's been so important for you to kind of get it across to everybody, and you are such a huge asset to the forum community and the Bald True Talk. And gosh, we've known each other now, what, 4 or 5 years? I've lost track, and I'm just so chuffed. I'm so chuffed for you that you are now in a position, based on all your experience, being able to offer that. But for you personally, and that's this huge success that you are having, albeit with repairing your situation. You know, it is what it is. But we had lengthy talks, didn't we, a couple of years back, with regards to how you were going to go about it. And I'm just so happy for you that you know, Dr. Basanga is you know, proving to be, you know, finally for you an incredible you know, ally for you to get this thing resolved. And I'm just so happy that you have been able to potentially start seeing light at the end of the tunnel, because your journey has been a remarkable one, and you are a very, very diplomatic individual online, and you know, you are it's a pleasure to know you as well, because you're a true brother of the industry in the fact that you know how devastating surgery can be. You know all the pitfalls, and thankfully you're around to help guide a lot of other guys and make sure that they're not making those classic mistakes that you and both I made. And I mean, thank you for calling the show, and let's hope we can get you back on to do some, you know, in you know, elaborate a little bit further on your different surgeries, because I personally feel you've got a lot to offer to the listeners.
No, I agree. It's a compelling story, and I have to agree with Specs as far as your diplomacy. To me, you know, if you go out there online and you seem like you're a balanced person and you're just giving your story out there and you're giving your opinion in a balanced way, that is going to help people far more, because they don't have to think, well, wait a second, is this guy a nut job, or is this guy just a bitter, fuck who just is so unhappy with his life that he's trying to bash everybody in his path? You out there, you telling a story that is like, in a reasonable, level-headed way. To me, that is so much more powerful than what some other guys go out there and try to do. Because let me tell you something, if I was new into the forums, you're the guy that I would gravitate to if I was considering having repair surgery, or if I was considering, surgery at all. I'd want to read your story as opposed to some of the guys that go out there and grandstand. And you're doing it the right way, man. And I would love you to, call the program more often and just contribute whatever you can, especially to these young guys who are calling the show.
Okay, yeah, I will do. I'll give you a call in a week or two.
Absolutely. Listen, man, thank you so much.
Make
for
sure
the
you
call.
do.
We're running way over time, so I'm going to cut you off and pot everybody else down. EJ, thanks a lot. Take care. Listen, great show, man. And let me let everyone know who's on hold. We just can't take your calls. We're 8 minutes after the hour. I got to thank GFQ for continuing to syndicate the program across the U.S. and around the world, even though we went 8 minutes over the broadcast. Specs, man, great job today. Thank you so much for hanging out on Sunday, as usual. And I'm hoping that as the UK show gets more and more attention, that we're going to be able to really change what's happening in the UK and all around Europe. Because I got to tell you guys, I don't say this lightly, it's a fucking mess out there. It's where you guys are. The industry is a complete disaster, in my opinion. There's a lot of good stuff happening. It's evolving, but it's still a real mess.
Indeed.
You're very diplomatic. The people have to know they got to be careful. You got to watch your ass out there. You got to realize who you're going to. If you're considering surgery, please, before you decide to do anything, before you buy any product or service anywhere in the world, but if you're in Europe, you're in the UK, check out the American Hair Loss Association at AmericanHairLoss.org. See if that product or service is recommended. Feel free to contact the American Hair Loss Association directly through email if you have a question about any product or service. If it's not recommended, if it doesn't give the thumbs up, there's a good chance that it's not something that's going to help you. If you're considering surgical hair restoration, obviously, you can check out iahrs.org, or you can go to Bald Truth Talk forums and see who is a member of the IHRS. As everyone knows, all IHRS members pay an annual screening fee once they're accepted into the organization. I would love to accept many more doctors than we do. We can certainly use the money to help to grow this thing even more. But sadly, I think we've accepted a total of 60 some odd doctors out of close to 1,000 who've applied over the years. So that just shows you what a mess this industry is. So be careful. If you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers, check out baldtruthtalk.com. Join the message forum. Be patient when you sign up, because it is a quasi, we do have a screening process in the forum. So some guys may be concerned that they're not getting in right away, but there's certainly a method to our madness. It is currently the most trafficked hair loss site and hair loss forum in the world. So it's certainly a very busy place and a great place to get a lot of information, interact with other hair loss sufferers. But, be careful. There's also a lot of craziness. It's an open forum. That's just the way that it works. So when people get in there and they have concerns, or, you just never know what you're going to read. So you just, look at the consistency, look for the real quality posters when you're reading information before you make any decisions on any product or service. Specs, listen, I'm going to close up shop. Thanks again for hanging out. Anything that you want to add before we close up shop tonight? I guess we lost you.
Spencer. No, you've got me. No, listen, all good. Sorry, buddy. The feed's really delayed for me, but listen, I'll get it back to you. You close it down because we have run over. It's been a pleasure to speak to everybody tonight. Great callers, Ben, Tiger, Chris, EJJ. It's obviously getting really popular now. I know there's been various calls. I've had various texts people couldn't get through. Maybe we're going to have to make it weekly, Spence, to hit everybody. But listen, great show, and looking forward to the next ones. We've got some great pre-recordeds coming up that Spencer and the Bald Truth Talk admin will be uploading to the forum. So stay tuned, and thanks for listening in.
And real quick, Bald Chap has a question in the chat room about hair fibers. Listen, dude, I don't know any concern about long-term use of hair fibers as far as it affecting your hair loss. There are some concerns about breathing in the silicone that is mixed with most of these fiber products over long term. I don't particularly, I don't use hair fibers myself. I use a product called Dermatch, which is kind of like a compact. It's like a makeup that you kind of paint your head with. The whole thing's ridiculous that we have to do this, but I do it. I've had good experience with it. But I also have known guys who use hair fibers and that have a great experience with it. And it really can make you look like you have a much fuller head of hair if you have enough hair for the fibers to adhere to. So I think they're good products. I don't know what the long-term safety profile is. I've never heard of anyone having any type of issues, whether it's exacerbating their hair loss or hurting them in any way, in other physical ways. But there is a lot of talk online that you don't want to breathe this stuff in. But there are ways to kind of cover your face and stuff when you apply it. So I hope that answered your question. Again, the website's thebaldtruth.com for archive shows of The Bald Truth and The Bald Truth UK. And check out baldtruthtalk.com if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program.